Hey, welcome back to the Anxious Love Coach podcast / YouTube. This is Natalie. This week's topic is all about authenticity on social media. I hope you're doing well. I am very excited about today's topic because it's actually a little bit of a response to some drama about authenticity on social media. So I just want to come on and share my personal opinion on it. And if you find it useful, maybe 100% useful, and you're like totally yes, or maybe you're like 50% I agree and 50% no, or 0% I completely disagree with you, Natalie. All of that is welcome. That's the beautiful thing about opinions. And I hope that if you are either a creator online or a consumer of online content, that you will find this perspective to be super, super freeing. My stance is that in today's day and age, as of the date today that I am recording this in time for Valentine's Day, so that you can get this before, good week before Valentine's Day, I believe that authenticity on social media, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and even to some degree, YouTube and podcasting platforms, all have some degree of authenticity that you as a creator take on. And I want to talk about how this is actually not a problem in the way that I think we think as a society that it is, because there's a lot of focus today on being authentic. And I think that's actually a good thing overall. But there are some shadows to this kind of obsession around making sure that we're being authentic at all times. It's becoming a bit of a hindrance. And I want to say that authenticity on social media, in my opinion, is heavily overrated. And I think when we value authenticity on social media to the extent that I'm seeing we currently are in our society, we fall into the comparison game. And it's a game that all of us will lose if we enter this game. Before I get talking about this, I actually wanted to let you know, if you are tending to compare yourself in life, but the niche I'm going to be speaking to a little bit extra is if you tend to compare yourself or your partner or just your relationship at large. From February 8th through 14th, I'm going to be hosting a little 7-day Telegram challenge. The beautiful thing, I'm being sarcastic. You may notice that around Valentine's Day, we start getting a lot of cultural messaging about what Valentine's Day should look like or feel like. Maybe you received a lot of messages that your partner should definitely bring you a bouquet of flowers. Your partner should buy you chocolates. Your partner should make a reservation. Your partner should block off all these things. Your partner should do this, should do that, should do this, should do that, or you should do this. Your partner should spend this amount. La, 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 la. I am really not a fan of the word should. There's just what you desire. And then there's what society tells you should desire. And what society tells you should desire may or may not actually align with what you personally desire. But so long as we are operating out of these shoulds, well, then we're operating in terms of right and wrong, right? Should versus should not. You should do this. This is the right thing to do. So long as other people are imposing their shoulds on you, you are going to be battling up against your own sense of rightness and wrongness. And where there is right or wrong, there is judgment. And where there is judgment, there is anxiety. And so I hope that you can drop the word should from your vocabulary and simultaneously have desires, communicate them, and also leave room to be surprised and leave room for things to unfold in their own way. You don't have to force yourself to be happy with something you're not happy with. No, you don't have to do that. And we can still simultaneously be relaxed around these things. So it's definitely a fine line to walk. And I'm offering a very generic message that half of you are going to be like, wait, where does that take me? And the other half is going to be like, wait, where does that take me? And you'll have two different perceptions of how to interpret my statement. So I find this very amusing in my work, not because I am a sadist. I mean, I kind of am, but I kind of am not at the same time. Look at that, another paradox. There's so much room for interpretation in my work because I offer so much nuance. And a lot of times people listen to, I'm assuming this, I'm not 100% sure. People probably listen to my content and be like, yeah, I feel like a more nuanced person, but I don't actually know where I stand. And I was like, yeah, that's common. When you have a nuanced opinion, you have a lot of perspectives that seemingly cancel each other out when that's not actually necessarily the case. It's not like I have no opinions. It's like this perspective works in this situation, this perspective works in that situation. For me, that's very empowering. So I offer these like very nuanced perspectives so that you can hopefully be present and realizing that you don't have to have a rigid worldview. You can say this works really well for this and this works really well for that. So if you tend to compare a lot, I'm offering a 7-day Telegram challenge from February 8th to 14th. It's going to be in the show notes. You can join that. It's for everyone. It's going to be like, I'm going to be in your phone for 7 days, offering you like a 10 to 20 minute voice note that I will record for you and say, here's the topic of the day. Here's one small task I would like you to do today. And it's all designed to help you develop more self-awareness and see what's going on underneath your comparison tendencies. And at the same time, have a way to share your insights and your little mini breakthroughs with the group and be celebrated and held accountable for these things. So, if you are listening to this after the 14th, no big deal. You can start a new 7-day on your own and just share in the comments on Teachable, because this will be available as an online course and you can kind of do this at your own time. Obviously, it doesn't have to be 7 days. You can make this over 2 weeks and do a little snippet every other day. It doesn't matter. I made this for you to work through at your own time. So no matter where in the world you are or what time zone you're in or the amount of time you have available, it's for you. It's designed to help you stop comparing. So if that's something you're interested in, I have it in the show notes. You can register. But if you're getting this before February 8th, then you can be in a little Telegram group with me and get these live and have garnered the support available from a group. So that's that. And this topic of comparison is something I've been looking at a lot recently, just because this community struggles with fear of missing out. Now, I did a couple episodes back on what to do if you struggle with FOMO. And this episode is actually somewhat tied into that. It's related because where there is a perception that we're missing out implies that we're comparing, and comparing means we're looking at our experience and we're comparing it to someone else's perceived experience. We're not actually, and the reason I said perceived is because we're not actually comparing with other people's experiences, you guys. We're comparing with the snapshot that they have presented to the world of their experience, which lacks context and nuance and all of these things. So it's just not a fair comparison. You've got your life and like your boring moments in your life, and you're comparing it to someone's highlights or lowlights. That it's important to realize it's not a fair comparison. It never is. When you're comparing to social media, when you're comparing to a documentary, a movie, a Hollywood film, an erotica film, some 60-second segment on TikTok, even like a love story over a series, a TV series, none of this is accurate. You can't compare them. The only way to compare, sadly, is to jump in their body and live life through their eyeballs and felt perception. But we can't do that, which kind of sucks. So we're left with, okay, well, what can I compare? I guess I can compare my full experience to someone else's curated representation of their experience. It's useful, and again, it's useful in some contexts to compare and not useful in others. It's useful to compare when we're shopping and we're comparing apples and we're trying to find the apple that doesn't have bruises. It's useful when we're shopping on Amazon and we're trying to figure out what's the best, most cost-effective purchase. It's not useful in relationships. It can maybe be useful if we're in an abusive relationship and that's all we've ever known, and we're noticing that it doesn't have to be abusive. That can be really useful. But we start getting where it starts getting messy is when we start assuming that going through challenges is not normal. And then we have to ask to what extent? To what extent of challenges is not normal? I'm actually really interested in this word normal itself. What is normal? Does it exist? There's a book that Dr. Gabor Mate let out recently, and I have not read it, but it's on my list, called The Myth of Normal. So I am guessing that this idea of normal is something that needs to come into question as well. Another topic for another day. As we might be guessing, there's some things that we should have a baseline of safety around. And yet at the same paradoxical time, being too safe means we don't grow. So two things are true at the same time. The reason this topic of authenticity on social media has come up for me so intensely lately is it's very relevant, because where there is a topic of FOMO or comparison or missing out, we have to look at people's level of authenticity when they are presenting their stories or their relationships or really their lives to us. The thing that got me excited to talk about it was actually some drama that unfolded on Instagram just a couple of weeks ago. So I posted a TikTok that I put onto Instagram, and it was a video I filmed in my car. And you guys can actually find this. And if you do find this commenter, please do not attack this person. It was a very genuine question they were asking. But it brought up a lot. It actually brought up a lot in me when I saw it. I was like, wow, this is very interesting. And I responded from a place of curiosity, and I learned something about it. I learned what what some people in the public are currently thinking about in terms of what should and shouldn't be on social media, how authentic people should be on the internet. So this was the question. I had filmed this video in my car for my own reasons. And the commenter said, "Why are you filming videos from your car? This sort of trend following causes me to question authenticity. Just sharing honest feedback." This caught me completely off guard. I was like, what? And so I responded, "I'm curious what perceived relationship there is between a person's video location and their level of authenticity." And this person responded, "It's the quote unquote trendy thing to do these days, film a video in a car. It's all the rage. Is it supposed to give off the appearance of being more casual? When I see coaches following trends that don't make sense, i.e. dressing up to go sit in a car to film a video, it doesn't give me a feeling of authenticity. It gives me a feeling of someone following a silly sheep-like trend. That's not a great look for a coach." And I found this to be absolutely fascinating, you guys. Fascinating. I was not even upset. I was just thinking, wow, this is where people's minds are at, where people assume that people are trying to be trendy on social media all the time. Now, to be fair, are there people that do ridiculous things to get attention? Yeah, I see it all the time. I saw some really weird, creepy shit recently where some guy was like humping a plate and saying, "You hungry, baby?" Like, come on. Like, are there certain accounts and people who are doing things they would never ever do in real life just to get attention and views? Yeah. But listen, if I were interested in getting in doing crazy things for views, I would be doing way other things other than filming in my car. So perhaps maybe someone might be filming videos in their car because it's all the rage and it's trendy. Or maybe there's another variable that you're not taking into account that is why people film videos in their car. So here's a bunch of examples why someone might film videos in your car. Maybe the house is noisy and the car is really quiet. It's a place of privacy where nobody's going to walk in on you. You can film a bunch of takes and not have people staring at you or walking in on you. It's soundproof. It has studio sound. There's better sound in my car than in this bedroom that I'm recording in, you guys, because it's small and contained and there's less echo. The lighting, generally your car might be parked outdoors, so you're probably facing the sun, but you have a overhead that makes sure the sun's not directly in your face, so you're kind of getting indirect natural lighting that is really, really nice. Oh, and maybe I am parked outside my car or I'm parked outside my house and I don't actually have to leave for 15 minutes. Ooh, I can squeeze in a TikTok video. I just happen to have a full face of makeup, happen to be ready to go out. Did I go out to do the TikTok? No. It was a convenient timing. I happened to look great that day. I happened to have 10 extra minutes in my car. And boom, you get a video that looks really, really nice in my car. So, do people do things to be trendy? Yes. Does that mean that everyone who does something that's very common is doing it to be trendy? No. It might be that we're all noticing the same thing. It's really nice videotaping in your car. We're all arriving at the same conclusion that cars are a fantastic place to film videos. We're not necessarily doing it to be trendy, has nothing to do with authenticity. But when people are trying to find who's authentic, who's not, well, we're falling into that comparison game. We're also making assumptions of people's motives that may or may not be accurate. And ultimately, we suffer because this person who maybe had a lot to learn from me, fortunately, I actually did have a conversation with this person, and it was a very positive interaction, which doesn't always happen on social media. But I didn't owe this person a response. And I don't always respond to comments like this. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. It depends on the day, how much space I have, and whether I'm curious or not. But maybe this person had a lot that he would have enjoyed from my content, from my page. And maybe after seeing that, he would have decided, this person's not authentic. I can't trust them. I have to leave. And it's like, it had nothing to do with trying to be authentic, man. So the reason I'm sharing this is because people make assumptions of people's motives. People make assumptions of why a person does what they do. The reason I'm sharing this, you guys, because if you're not a content creator, I want you to imagine what it might be like to be a content creator, not because you should become a content creator, but because you will at some point be misunderstood. And this is just happening on a very large scale for people with a big following, but it's going to happen on a small scale for you. And the lessons are kind of the same. So people are going to read what you have chosen to present for whatever valid reason you've chosen to present things in a certain way. And people are going to assume that you have deliberately misled them in some way, rather than being like, listen, I can't present you 100% of my life here. I can give you pieces. And this is why it's important to give people the benefit of the doubt, to an extent. So I don't do things to be trendy. And simultaneously, I'm not above being fake. I want people to know that. Have I ever jumped on a trend? Hell yeah, of course I have. Sometimes I do it for fun. Sometimes I do it looking to get views. Sometimes I'm intentionally polarizing because I know that a nuanced view, there have been times on Instagram or social media where I present a nuanced view and it's just really boring. And so nobody responds and it doesn't engage and it doesn't get to the people that I want to see it. So sometimes what I feel pigeonholed to do is take a slightly more polarizing stance, which causes something to get traction. And then if people like the way I'm presenting and what I'm presenting, they will often come find my longer form content where I present as much nuance as I possibly can fit in. So realize that a lot of times what you're perceiving to be clickbaity, if they were to present you a nuanced headline, you wouldn't be interested. It wouldn't gain any traction. So if you are tired of people doing stuff for attention, stop giving them your attention. We are putting all the onus on all the responsibility on the creators to basically appease us, the consumer. We're like, stop creating clickbaity content. Stop, having really catchy headlines. Well, you're the one that consumes it. You're the one that gets swayed by it. We are actually the ones with the really short attention spans. If you don't want people to have clickbaity content, if you don't want to see polarizing headlines, then reward the non-polarizing headlines, reward the nuanced headlines. But guess what? People aren't doing that because that stuff is nuanced and it's not as exciting and it's not as arguable. It's like, actually, the nuanced stuff we can generally all agree on a lot easier than the polarizing things. So what this does is it forces the creators of content to be more polarizing. All right. Now like I said, I try not to be, but realize that if you want authenticity on social media, you need to actually find someone who is comfortable admitting that they are curating everything. Because unless you are in my bedroom following me all day long, which that would be authenticity. Yes, when I go out to dinner, I dress up. Is that being inauthentic? Maybe. I took a shower. I combed my hair. I could have not put any effort into my appearance. Would that add anything to the experience? I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with dressing up. I think there's nothing wrong with curating. There's nothing wrong with presenting something. And I would be the first to say I've covered up my flaws. I've been the first to say, the first to willingly kind of not disclose certain vulnerabilities. And for anyone who says that they don't do that, they're fully authentic, come on. I don't know anyone who's fully authentic. And we have to look at what's your definition of authentic. For me, the definition of authentic is actually admitting, yeah, for the sake of simplicity, I curate things. Because I don't have a camera on me 24/7, I have to choose what I present and what I leave out. And what I leave out is the stuff that most people, supposedly, according to the trends today, don't want to look at. So I present the things that people want to look at. Now, sometimes to try and balance it out, I might show the good and then I might show the bad, but even the addition of what I've presented as good and what I've presented as bad is not the total picture either. So you've just got like the black and the white, but what about the black within the white, the good within the bad, or the bad within the good? And what about the more nuanced, messy gray areas? Well, that takes a little bit more attention to really look at. It's not as polarizing. So where the good news is, where there's polarizing content, you will often find all the nuance in the comments. People will make up for the lack of nuance in your comments. They're like, but what about me? But what about me? But what about this situation? But what about that situation? It's like, well, there's all the nuance you were looking for. It's in the comments. So a lot of times the creator presents a polarizing topic and then the comments fill in the gaps. But where there is a limitation for a 60-second video, if you're only allowed to go up to 60 seconds, I mean, how much nuance are you really going to fit in there? So you're forced to take a stance. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, as a consumer, realize that by the very setup of social media, 60 seconds or a post, the sheer limited amount of space that you've been given implies that context is always going to be missing. There's always going to be stuff that you don't see. And you need to remember that before you start taking every single thing at face value. Assume there's lots you don't see. And that means getting comfortable with uncertainty. After a while, we start to wonder, can I trust anyone on social media? Well, yes and no, because everyone, including me, is cancelable. There's information out there. I've seen people get destroyed online, careers ruined, destroyed by things that I personally am not above doing, or things that I personally have done. Things people have said on, like, someone says something stupidly racist on Twitter. I don't know a single person who's never said anything stupidly racist. So it's the intent matters. People can try to clean it up, but unfortunately, people don't see your cleanup. They just see your mistake, and that's it. You can be not perspective, but reputation is the word I'm looking for. Reputation ruined, right? So the problem with social media, or rather I should say the problem with authenticity online, was never that social media was fake. It was always fake. The problem was never that social media, Instagram, TikTok was fake and inauthentic, but rather that the consumers of social media forgot that it was never meant to replace reality. I'm going to say this again, you guys. Before you get irritated with someone for seemingly being inauthentic on social media, remember, the problem was never that people online are fake, but that we thought it was supposed to be real. You need to be able to watch a Disney movie and know that it's a fantasy. You need to be able to go on social media and see someone's reel and be like, that's curated. And to be like, I'm not above curating. I curate too. We're all curating. We all have these little avatars, these little personas on social media. Where we start getting messy is when we start comparing our 3D, messy, nuanced, multi-dimensional, multivariable lives to someone's flattened, curated two-dimensional reality on social media. If you compare your 3D life to someone else's 2D representation of their 3D life, you're going to experience envy and disappointment and FOMO. And also you're going to experience the opposite, which is like, oh, wow, I am so much better than they are. No, you're not. They might be showing the bad stuff, but not showing the good stuff. Or they're showing only the good stuff, but they're not showing the bad stuff. And maybe other people are showing both good and bad things, but that still doesn't capture all of it either, because you're not there. You're not feeling the emotions they're feeling. You're not watching the same things that they're watching. So I think, if you're a content creator, maybe you believe that you're authentic on social media, or maybe you just like post things on Facebook. You post your dog died, or you post that you got a new job, right? Well, that's not all you, right? So we're posting things that are important to us, but it's still not the full picture. So you assume that you're being authentic on social media. And so you assume that other people are being authentic on social media too. Truth is, you're curating. And it's not a bad thing, because of course you are. The whole point was to create a little avatar, a little persona for fun. We came onto these apps ultimately for fun. It gets messy when we start thinking that that art or our curated little avatar fun lives are supposed to be equated with reality. So assume that you're not seeing the full picture. Admit that you're not showing the full picture. Show pieces of alternative angles to, quote unquote, keep it real. But know that even if you add up the good and the bad of some photos you post online, that the addition of those doesn't capture reality either. No matter what you do, like I said, unless you have a camera on you from all angles at all times, and even if you had a camera on you at all times, well, you would curate your life. You probably would squeamishly adjust yourself to look good, and maybe you'd have a hard time falling asleep because you'd be wondering, what do I look like when I'm asleep? All right. And people do judge your candid stuff. There was a video I recorded on New Year's with my husband, Preston. I was wearing like this thing called a kigurumi. It's like a Japanese onesie. They're very like low around the crotch. They come down to like your knees. And it was like an owl costume. It was super comfy, super cozy. It's not sexy. It's just like the coziest, comfiest thing. And it's really cute because it has when you hold your arms out, it has like little wings and it has a tail. And it has like a little hood with owl eyes on it. Okay. So it was really comfy. I was wearing it on New Year's. And right, like a minute after the clock struck midnight, Preston and I started doing a little tango, and my mom captured like a little video of us doing our little Argentine tango. And it was just like so sweet and for me. And it wasn't intended to be shared to the public. I never thought like, oh, I can't wait to share this on Instagram. I mean, guys, I was wearing an owl kigurumi. It was just a sweet thing. And Preston and I like watched it like 50 times each. And we were like, wow, we're so cute. And it brought us so much pleasure to just have that video. And like a few weeks later, I was thinking, oh, this might be really sweet to share. And so I decided to share it. I felt kind of vulnerable. Like this wasn't meant for public eyes, but I shared it anyway. And like most comments were amazing. But there was like one comment that did get to me that was like, can you change your outfit? Thanks. And I was like, whoa. All of a sudden, this thing that was meant for me became something that people can scrutinize and nitpick and think I should have presented it better. It was never meant to be a presentation. And so sometimes there's content like that you deliberately present, and sometimes there's stuff that was actually candid, but other people think you should have presented it better. So I guess part of me is saying like, it can be really hard being online, you guys. And at the same time, it's just worth noticing, how we are like that. Notice how you're that person that's like, hey, can you change your outfit? Or, wow, why did you dress up for this? Right? Isn't it? It's so interesting that we can get criticism on both sides. One person's mad that you didn't make the video look better. One person's mad that the video looked too good and you should have made it more authentic. I mean, come on. This is exhausting. It was just supposed to be fun and games, you guys. When did it become about, oh, you're real, you're fake? Well, guys, we're all fake here. We're all fake on social media. Even this video, you don't even know if I'm wearing pants. Like, you don't know. I'm not going to let you find out, right? So you're seeing a little box. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing a little box. And if you're listening to the podcast, you're getting even less context. You don't know what facial expressions I'm making. You're not looking at my body language. You're hearing my voice, and that's it. And believe it or not, your brain is actually filling in the gaps. It's attempting to fill in who I am. You're making an assumption of how I look, recording this podcast. And maybe you're assuming that I'm in a recording studio when I'm actually in kind of a messy bedroom, as you might see if you went on YouTube. So the context is always missing. Your brain tries to fill it in, but you got to remember that what your brain is trying to fill in is just a projection based on your past experiences. It's not actually accurate. So truth is, we're all curating all the time. Where it gets a little messy is where we forget that we're curating. And when we're curating when we don't need to, and we might not necessarily want to, right? So if you're curating and you actually don't need to be, and you don't even want to be, then stop. But if you do decide to curate as a work of art, that's beautiful. Now, are people curating to cover up insecurities? Yeah. And you know what? I'm not above it. Let people do that if they need to. And vulnerability will eventually set you free when you're in a safe environment and you can be seen and beautiful. So I'm not against authenticity. I'm just also pro giving people the benefit of the doubt. I'm pro having the responsibility as the viewers of people to understand you're not being presented the full picture, and that's normal. That's how it's supposed to be. How else could it be? And also, they're not presenting the full picture. You're not seeing the full picture. So if you want more authenticity on social media, ironically, guys, admit that you're fake. I'm fake. You're fake. We're all fake. This was supposed to be fun. Theater is also fake. We dress up. We don't have to dress up. We don't have to dress up in costume. We don't have to put on makeup. We don't have to do our hair. It's all fake. That's wonderful. And it's more fun that way. And I wouldn't change it. I love dressing up. I love putting on costumes. I'm so glad that when I watch TV, people don't show up as themselves. I want them to dress up and play the part. So it can be empowering. It's all about context. How and why are we dressing up? Are we dressing up for fun? Or are we doing it to avoid something? And at the same time, if you do it to avoid something, give yourself some grace. So I wrote these down. Assume you're not seeing, when you're on social media, A, assume you're not seeing the full picture. B, admit in your life, shamelessly, you guys, that you're not even showing the full picture. 3, yes, show pieces of alternative angles to keep it real. But know that even the addition of all these alternative angles doesn't capture everything either, just pieces. Number 4, and no amount of words is going to capture your life. You could try to use, this podcast doesn't even capture everything I wanted to say. I tried to capture a lot. I tried to say it in different ways, but it's still not going to capture everything. So you have 2,200 characters in an Instagram post. How much you think you're going to capture a dissertation in 2,200 characters? No, you're going to have to deliberately leave things out. So don't get on people for leaving out nuance. Of course they did. They had to. The very structure of social media demands that we leave out nuance and take a relatively polarizing stance. You as a consumer need to understand that. So don't compare, because nuance has to be left out. Context has to be left out by its very nature, by its very structure, by the very algorithm demands that we are polarizing. So go on these apps to have fun. Don't use it to compare your lives, because the full picture is not getting captured. So that said, we can try to be authentic, and we can try to capture all of our lives through pictures and through words. And we can try to take a photo of our dinner and send it to people and post it on social media, knowing full well that they can't taste your dish through the picture, but we can try, and we do it anyway. And don't ever stop, because I wrote this down. It's very poetic. Don't ever stop trying to capture reality through a lens, because the simple attempt of trying to capture the infinite abundance and the infinite beauty through these little lenses is adorable in and of itself. So it's really cute that we try to write poetry that captures the infinite feelings that we have. It's adorable that we try to write music that captures how we feel, and we try to convey that to others. It's really adorable that we try to do that. We will fail every time. There will never be enough words to capture a photo, and the photo will never capture, the photo of Yosemite will never quite capture Yosemite. And yet we try, and we should never stop. But no, it can't be captured. You can't capture what we might call God in a picture, but we can try, and it's adorable to try. But don't equate the two. Okay. So it's never going to be authentic on social media. Stop being mad that it's not authentic. It was never supposed to be. So if someone's fake on social media, you say, so am I. I'm not above it. So just have fun creating your stuff. Put shit out there if you're a creator, and know that it's going to get to whoever it needs to get to. And as consumers, be more responsible. Don't be swayed by pornography and TikTok. You should do this for Valentine's Day. Like, let these things add to your life. Don't let them take away from your life. There's so much beauty in your life that is way, way better than anything you can find in porn and social media. Your life is way better than a Disney movie, I promise you. Your life is way richer than a Disney movie. The Disney movie lasted 2 hours. It's not going to capture all the richness. So make your life into a Disney movie in your way, not based on how someone else thinks you should do it. And social media authenticity on social media is freaking overrated. So everybody chill out. And if you want more on how to stop comparing, obviously social media isn't the only place we compare, and it's not the only way we compare. Join my 7-day challenge. Quit comparing your relationship in 7 days. So that's going to be in the show notes. Something to keep an eye out for. I will be on honeymoon at the end of February. So I'm going to be having something very special out for you during that time, but I will be offline, but I will have some podcasts scheduled to go out during that time. So just make sure you're subscribed. And if you enjoyed this content, let me know in the comments. Try to capture your feelings into words and put them out there. And or feel free to DM me on Instagram. I'm a little bit more on there now because I'm enjoying it. So I'm glad that you joined me today. And I will see you guys and talk to you guys in the next episode. Thanks.